All right, so our first video for December 10th. We're finishing up Napoleon today. So we were talking about the Spanish revolt that took place, and we got into the war continuing. We left off with after the failure of the continental system, Napoleon decides to invade Russia as kind of their scapegoat, but also to kind of go after the resources. So Napoleon in June of 1812 is going to, on the wrong slide here, sorry. June of 1812 is going to invade Russia with his grand army. So he's going to invade Russia with his grand army with 600,000 soldiers. Only about a third of those forces were French. He had planned to winter in the city of Smolnik, which you don't have to know that, but Napoleon got reckless and greedy and decided to press towards Moscow, even though it got to be wintertime in Russia. So he's trying to get to the capital to take out the Tsar, but it's not working out. He has a major draw at this Battle of Borodino. Borodino is a major draw for his forces as winter's setting in, and then he continues to pursue on to Moscow. Alexander I then evacuates Moscow and burns down part of the city and does not negotiate with Napoleon at all. So basically they developed this scorched earth policy where basically they destroy everything as they retreat, so there's nothing the French can use, and essentially it dissuades them from wanting to take over the territory. So after 5 weeks in the scorched and abandoned city of Moscow, Napoleon ordered a retreat, one of the greatest military disasters in history. So his attack into Russia, which essentially accomplished nothing, was a dramatic military disaster, not only because they failed to take any major objective, but also because he lost so many people to reckless endangerment from doing things like attacking in wintertime. The Russian army, winter, and starvation cut Napoleon's army to pieces. When they returned to Poland and Prussia, 370,000 men had died, 200,000 were taken prisoners, so not much remained of his original 600,000 grand army. At this point, Napoleon's greatly weakened. A lot of the people in Europe see an opportunity and decide that this is the time to go ahead and get this guy out of here. So Napoleon left his troops to their fate and raced back to Paris to preserve his throne. But at this point, Austria's foreign minister, a guy we're going to see again, and a guy I need to add to this PowerPoint. Let me just go in here real quick. Prince, don't want that. Prince Clemens. It's von, hang on, let me make sure I get the spelling right. It's von Metternich, which we're going to meet this guy again here shortly, or in the near future. So Prince Clemens von Metternich, who we're going to see play an important role in the time period following Napoleon's defeat, offered a deal to Napoleon, saying like, we'll let you get back all of France's traditional borders if you and allow you to maintain your position and title, but Napoleon didn't accept this deal, and so Austria and Prussia then deserted France and no longer were their allies, and so they joined Britain and Russia, in what's called the Quadruple Alliance. So March of 1814, Austria-Prussia abandoned France. They're going to join it with Britain and Russia to form the Quadruple Alliance that then go after Napoleon to take out his power. So all patriots across Europe were called to liberate France from Napoleon and try to liberate all of Europe from Napoleon. By April of 1814, Napoleon was defeated and he had to abdicate his throne. So he abdicated his throne by April of 1814. Napoleon was exiled off to the coast, off the continent onto the island of Elba. So he was put off on the island of Elba, which is right off of Italy, and they made him live there in exile. But he got to keep his imperial title, and France had to pay him 2 million francs every year while he was in retirement. But that still wasn't good enough for Napoleon. So whenever he was removed, the Allies, the Quadruple Alliance, agreed to restore the Bourbon dynasty under Louis XVIII. So you get the next Louis who replaces the fallen monarchy. So after all that, they end up going back to monarchy with Louis XVIII, who promised to treat France with leniency. He understood like all the emotions they've gone through in the past several years and doesn't want to go back to strict monarchy. The monarch sought support by issuing the Constitutional Charter, which accepted many of the French Revolution changes and civil liberties. But Louis XVIII lacked the magnetism of Napoleon and wasn't that dynamic of a leader. Hearing about political unrest in France and diplomatic tensions in Vienna, Napoleon escaped Elba in February 1815 and marched on Paris with a small band of followers. French soldiers responded to the call by their emperor, and Louis XVIII fled out of the country. But his return was a long shot, and the Allies rallied against him. So he comes back for only 100 days. So his return to France only lasted about 100 days. He comes back, puts together his army as much as he can. The Allies quickly reunite, and they're going to defeat him in modern-day Belgium at the Battle of Waterloo. So Battle of Waterloo is in modern-day Belgium, where Napoleon's finally defeated by June of 1815, and that's it for Napoleon. He was then imprisoned on the island of St. Helena off the coast of Africa. So he was then in prison and exiled, this time off of St. Helena. Louis XVIII then returned, and the Allies dealt more harshly with France this time around. Napoleon would die in 1821, but he would write about how he was this revolutionary liberator who had been undone by oppressive reactionaries. Sorry to go a little fast, but we got to get this done quickly, so that's the first video, and here comes video 2.